Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today another build showcase project, like things that I'm currently doing on stream, or at least the next build that I'm trying to play. And this is some kind of community project. So the base idea was my last league's Vaal Righteous Fire Bomber, what I call it, because I call my builds bomber builds when they explode stuff, okay? So the basic idea was to keep up a permanent Righteous Fire, being super fast with like phase run and that kind of stuff, you know. I'm just gonna make a super fun and ultra lazy tier 16 or at least high tier farmer. That is the base idea. For a small showcase on how this looks like, if we're gonna go back to standard, that's my last league's character. That was actually the last character that I was playing in the Synthesis League. So this is basically a typical Righteous Fire dude with double Explo weapons and Onslaught boots and self-cursing temp chains. Okay, that's a lot of information, right? And yes, I do know we don't have Explo weapons anymore and we don't have Onslaught boots anymore. But the base idea of this character still remains the same. The thing is, Vaal Righteous Fire has a certain amount of duration, right? So it lasts for like 9 seconds at the moment with this with increased duration here, right? So if I'm self-cursing myself with temp chains, so with the Shackles of the Wretched, when I curse an enemy, it gets reflected back to me, right? So I have this on a Stonebrand setup, so if I'm just going to here use Stonebrand, I'm getting temp chains on myself. So, good thing is that all my buffs will last longer, as like also Vaal Righteous Fire and whatever buffs I have, or Flask, they will last longer because I have this temp chains effect. Problem here is, I'm also gonna get slowed, and this is the reason why we're gonna play Juggernaut in this character here, because we cannot get slowed below base movement speed. So Juggernaut is a good way to counter self-curse temp chains. So how does this look like? Basically, you're just gonna self-curse yourself, right? You pop Righteous Fire, and then you just kill stuff until you have enough to activate your Vaal Righteous Fire, pop your Flask, and now basically from this point on, we do have a permanent Vaal Righteous Fire on if we're gonna make the timing on the Flask properly. See, if Flask is up again, I can press my Vaal Righteous Fire again, it never wore off, so that's pretty insane, right? And usually the character gets super fast and super fancy, and yeah, it's a lot of fun to play, especially because it's super lazy. So we have a couple of problems here that we cannot convert this one into the current league, which is basically obviously exploding weapons and self-cursing temp chains, onslaught boots and so on. That doesn't work anymore, right? That's why we are going to take an Occultist. So why Occultist? Obviously Profane Bloom. Profane Bloom is a ascendancy note here, which says cursed enemies you or your minions kill have a 25 chance to explode, dealing quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. This basically gives us the same pop-up effect as the Explo weapons, right? I know there's other ways to go that, like a shaped mace can also run Fizz's extra fire damage explosion or something. But I wanted to do as a low life character, so we can reserve a lot more auras here and still have this fancy stuff. Okay, so as I said, there is 3 options that I want to have. The explosion, that's what I changed from the Explo weapons to being an Occultist with the Chaos Explosion, right? Self-cursing temp chains is something. You need basically 2 options to counter that. Either you're a Juggernaut, so you can skill the cannot be slowed below base movement speed, or you're gonna take Chaos Roots, because Chaos Roots basically have the, I don't know, like Iron Stance or some stance mod on it, so you cannot get slowed below base movement speed either. The problem with that is Chaos Roots do have life, and they have no movement speed, and that's shit. So you can self-curse yourself with temp chains, but you're still gonna be somewhat slow. So I don't want to do that. So the reason here is, I thought, how can we make it possible that your Vaal Righteous Fire gets increased duration throughout the process without using temp chains? So the thing is, how this works, this build, is you have a Soul Ripper Flask that says that you're not gonna get soul gain prevention as long as this flask is on. I don't want to have quality on that one, because the less the Soul Ripper lasts, the better, okay? The basic idea behind that would be your Vaal Righteous Fire lasts for let's say, I don't know, like 4 seconds, I think is the usual thing, right? And your flask lasts also 4 seconds on this specific here, right? So without quality, because I don't want to have quality, I'm gonna explain it real quick why. So when I pump in the increased duration and some other skill nodes, my Vaal Righteous Fire lasts for 11.67 seconds at the moment. That means if I'm activating my flask and then activating Vaal Righteous Fire, I have basically 11, or let's say 12 seconds average, right? So we end up having 8 seconds left where the flask is off cooldown and is ready to gain charges again. And also, yeah, and my Vaal Righteous Fire will still last for another 8 seconds, right? So I have this 8 seconds time to gain enough charges to use the Soul Ripper again, to activate Vaal Righteous Fire again, to just continuously repeat this process, right? This is the base idea here. So let me close that. We have here some jewels. They're called Atziri's Rain, that gives our Vaal skills an effect duration, right? So if you check here, we have now 11.76. So if you socket this one into here probably, and we have any other skill slot open at the moment? Not, because I'm still like in the testing, right? It's now 12.56, right? So we can get 2 of those, but I don't think it's too valuable to get those, because jewels will always give you a lot of damage and energy shield, okay? That's, yeah, obviously, because if you go like burning damage, fire damage, something like that, maybe some all resistance if you need, like something like that, is always better than using a jewel like this, which just increases your duration, right? So I want to have an option so I can make my Vaal Righteous Fire last way longer. And I found out that this Glorious Vanity, the same jewel that we used in the latest 5 emblem carry, you remember we were searching for this hex tech where you have increased effect of curses, so your temp chains that you're reflecting to yourself lasts way longer, okay? So if you're gonna just take one of these Glorious Vanities here, I don't know if I still have I think one I have laying around somewhere, if I can quickly find, oh, here it is. So what I'm doing is, I'm just taking a bunch of Divines and this jewel, and basically I'm just like equipping it, then I'm checking what mods do I have here around, right? And if it's not the mods that I'm looking for, I divine it, and then I equip it again. So here would be a spot that you can enter it, or here on the Power Charge, Faith and Steel, that cluster here that could have a lot of change or good nodes. I was just divining, equip top side, what has it, equip bottom side, what has it, it's bad, unequip, divine it again, and keep on going like that. So I need specifically 3 things that are good for my build, okay? Basically at the start it was 2 things. First was the Exquisite Pain. That gives me damage over time and skill effect duration. So damage over time is good, because Righteous Fire is damage over time, and skill effect duration will make my Vaal Righteous Fire last longer, right? So I found out that with this one here, I have actually 2 of those. I have the Exquisite Pain over here, and I have it over here. Makes this one like 50% more damage over time, or increased damage, and like 20% skill effect duration, right? This was the early stage that we're looking for, but since I was just putting that in and just searching everything, like what can we have, I found out that we can have Cult of Fire, which gives me 1 max fire resistance. And for you, if you understand how Righteous Fire works, you're burning for a certain amount of damage based on your energy shield / life, right? That means the more fire resistance we have, and I'm talking about max fire resistance, the less damage we get. And then I had this one actually, that was my like Exquisite Pain twice, and then Cult of Fire, that was what I was looking for, right? And then we found out, and I'm saying we found out because this is basically a community project, because every time I'm saying like, shit, how can we solve this? I have this and that idea. People on chat always like recommend like cool ideas, like often bad ideas. But anyways, it's just a community project. Everybody throwing in their ideas that they have. When I say like, okay guys, we have a problem, I need more regen, I need more resistance, I need this, I need that, how can we make this possible, that possible, you know? And I'm just talking through when I'm saying like, yeah, this could be an option, this could be an option, and people come up with really cool ideas. So that's why I'm saying this is like a community project, right? So I was looking for twice Exquisite Pain plus 1 Cult of Fire, which I got after quite some divines. Talking about, I think like 20 divines or so. So it's not like super uncommon, right? But then somebody said, like, how often do you have Commanding Presence? Because Commanding Presence gives you more effect of non-curse auras. That means every aura that I'm using, right? If it's Vitality, if it's Purity of Fire, if it's Malevolence, Discipline, whatever, I'm getting more out of that because of the effect of the non-curse auras from your skills, right? And yeah, I had it 3 times in nearby, right? So I'm having actually, yeah, 3 times. I'm having twice Exquisite Pain, I'm having +1 max fire resistance, and 3 times here Commanding Presence, which gives my Purity of Fire so much max fire resistance. And if we're gonna check this one here, right? So I'm unequipping this Purity of Fire here. I'm having at the moment no fire resistance. Shit. How can we make this one real quick? If I unequip this one, res. Okay, no suffix open. Res, fire res. We need res. Okay, perfect. What is this? Has dexterity, dexterity. More fire res. This is just like white gear basically that I'm just switching around and trying to make things possible, right? So let's get fire res over here. Perfect. Now we should be capped. Yeah. So we have 126 fire res. So with all this effect of aura nodes, right? I'm getting 76% max, like 75% is the max resistance that you can get, right? I have 1% max fire resistance over here. That's why I'm having 76, right? So I'm using at the moment a Rise of the Phoenix because this one gives me 5% max fire resistance, which leads up to be 81%, right? And now my Purity of Fire with level 21 and socketed into an unset ring that has level of socketed gems, I would get a total of 5% max resistance, right? So I would be at 86. But if I use my Vaal Righteous my Purity of Fire now, I'm having 90 maximum resistance. And why is that? Because the amount of effect of my auras that I have on my tree with like Commanding Presence, with those nodes here, Influence, with Sovereignty and so on, they will give me like more than 80% effect of my auras, and that's why I'm not getting 5% max resistance. I'm actually getting freaking 9% maximum fire resistance. And 90% is the current hard cap for resistance, like elemental resistance, right? That means that I'm reducing the amount of damage that I take from Righteous Fire by such an insane amount that I'm not needing to have too much regen. Because usually you're just stacking regen, and at some point your degen effect from Righteous Fire is lower than the amount of life regen you have, okay? And this is the reason why you can sustain Righteous Fire at a certain point, right? But with the option here, with all this effect here, we're gonna get a huge amount of regen. So we don't need that, or at least we don't need that much regen anymore, because we have such an insane amount of yeah, max resistance here. Okay, up to the next point. Now we can basically sustain Righteous Fire. I'm not dropping Energy Shield. If you're wondering, hey, wait a second, you have 5k Energy Shield, what is this shit build? Don't forget, I'm level 77 at the moment. We are playing around with the skill tree a lot, taking more and more skill effect duration nodes. So I'm skipping a lot of ES nodes on the way at the moment. So we're gonna get more and more. I'm like calculating with like 8 to 9,000. My gear is not crafted yet. This is like white items. This is just for strength to equip it, and so on. So, and I don't want to play with Headhunter. This is another aspect here, right? Because for Righteous Fire, what do I need a Headhunter? The haste buff is nice, but all the other damage buffs are not really benefit at all, right? I would like to use, where is it? A Crystal Belt, and see what we can craft on that one. Wait, secret build. Hey, where is my items here? What is this? Incubators, fossils. Secret build. Hey, where is my crystal belt and my opal ring? Ah, here they are. Okay, never mind. So, a crystal belt that I cannot use at the moment because they are level 79. So at a certain point when I'm like halfway done with the build and levels goes up, I want to switch to a crystal belt, because crystal belt is energy shield. Energy shield is more Righteous Fire damage because we get a certain percentage of our damage as yeah, fire damage in that case, right? So if you're seeing like Headhunter, oh my god, another super expensive build, no, Headhunter is not part of this. I'm just using that one to equip my gear. You see that once I get this minus 50 strength here in dexterity, I cannot use anything. So before like investing heavily into some notes here on Astramantis or whatever, I'm just equipping Headhunter so I can test the build. So this is not part of the build, okay? So, makes me up to the next and probably last part for now, which is Elemental Overload and Elemental Equilibrium. Those are two nodes here that I cannot proc with Righteous Fire. Why is that? Because Righteous Fire is nothing else than a Burning Ground, okay? Righteous Fire does not hit, okay? So, no Spell Leech, no Curse on hit, no nothing like that, okay? Righteous Fire is just a Burning Ground where enemies step on it. They don't get like a hit, you know, where it says like Fireball, for example. That's a cast, and the Fireball hits at some point, right? And the hit will apply like Curse on hit or something like that. Righteous Fire is a Burning Ground that doesn't apply hit. So we have no chance to proc Ally Overload, neither we can go Elemental Equilibrium. The thing here, what you usually do, is taking, like on the Juggernaut, I used the Stonebrand, right? Because Stonebrand is something you can cast, and this one socketed in, like this one does lightning damage, right? So our fire damage will be increased because of Elemental Equilibrium, which says enemies you hit with elemental damage temporarily gets 25 resistance to those elements and minus 50 to the other. Means if I'm hitting with a lightning spell, the enemy will have more lightning resistance, but it will have minus 50% fire and cold resistance. And since we're doing fire damage, we're gonna get actually a quite nice buff here, right? Same as we're not a crit build, because Righteous Fire cannot crit. That means if we're gonna use Ally Overload, and once we crit, we get a buff that lasts 8 seconds, that gives me 40% more elemental damage. And elemental damage is the way we're gonna scale our Righteous Fire. Like, maximum life or energy shield plus elemental damage or generic increased damage, fire damage, something like that, okay? So, means with Righteous Fire we have no option to proc Ally Overload and no option to have Elemental Equilibrium. Easy thing is, as I said, Stonebrand, Orb of Storms, increased crit, anything like that. So once I'm like placing my brand somewhere, do we have a slot here? Like this. When I place a brand, it will crit, I will get the buff, but you still have to use it like every 8 seconds, right? Or on bosses. On bosses is not a big deal, because when you go to the boss, like say the map device is the boss, you go here, drop this one, and start doing damage. So it's not a problem, but I want to have the Ally Overload somewhere in between as well. And since you guys know me, and I'm a freaking lazy player, I want to find out other ideas to make this happen. Since we're using Face Run here, right? So I'm just going to remove this one, or at least like reset it, so the dexterity cost is not too much. So my Face Run has a cooldown of 4 seconds, right? 4 seconds is the cooldown. So the basic idea behind that one is, if we are using a trigger socketed spell when you use a skill, right? That means whatever I have socketed into this scepter now, means every time I'm using my Face Run, it will proc a spell, you know? The good thing is, Face Run and Stonebrand have both 4 seconds cooldown. So whenever I'm using my Face Run, I'm gonna, yeah, shit like a Stonebrand on the floor, you know? So the problem is, when I'm like constantly mapping, and I don't want to get my Stonebrand at my back, you know, because the mobs are in front of me, because here and on behind me I already killed everything. So just laying a Stonebrand over here will never give me any effect. That's why we came up with some ideas like Orb of Storms, because the range is bigger, probably Ball Lightning. The problem with Ball Lightning is kind of funny. Every time I'm using my Face Run, you see, it shoots wherever it wants. Sometimes it shoots in the front, and like on this example here, when I'm running, I shoot at the back, you know? Like, there are no mobs, so my Ball Lightning will never freaking trigger anything, you know? And I don't think that we're gonna run, turn around, shoot it, and then keep on running. That's like stupid. But we can use Blade Vortex. Blade Vortex has the good side effect that whatever... Like, we have so much increased effect because we want to scale our Vaal Righteous Fire duration, right? So whenever I'm using my Face Run, I'm getting a stack of Blade Vortex. And this lasts so long that if I just continuously using my phase run, I'm actually stacking Blade Vortex charges, right? Which is kind of good. So that means this is a spell that we can use. This is a physical spell, right? So for Elemental Equilibrium, we need to proc either like cold damage or lightning damage. So if we're gonna socket a fizz into lightning, our Blade Vortex does now physical and lightning damage, right? So we have our lightning damage. So if we're gonna pop our phase run, we permanently have this aura on, right? Problem is that this aura is actually smaller than my Righteous Fire, right? But the good thing is we carry it around. So wherever we are going, I'm using phase run all the time just so to be faster in mapping. But as you see, my... oh, wait, there is actually the increased area of effect missing here. Ah, that's better. So as you see, my my Righteous Fire and the Vaal Righteous Fire will have even bigger circle. I will never even get close to the enemy, right? In one hand, yes, that's true. In the other hand, if we're killing mobs before they're gonna be at our point where they actually get hit by Blade Vortex, right? We have enough damage. So what is the reason of ally Overload and ally Equilibrium? More damage. So if the enemy dies before even, like when touching my Righteous Fire and they die, I don't need either Elemental Overload or Elemental Equilibrium. And for those packs that are actually resistant enough to actually come close to me, they're gonna get hit by Blade Vortex and they're gonna get a bunch more damage because the ally Overload procs, that's a buff that I will get anyways for like 8 seconds, but they're gonna be affected by ally Equilibrium. So my Vaal Righteous Fire will even do more and more damage when time moves on, you know? So this is the current build idea that we have. So we just want to have a super lazy build where you're just gonna press your flasks, activate Vaal Righteous Fire that will last for probably 15 seconds or more. And then constantly spamming our phase run to be even fast, like 200% movement speed or something, and just breeze through the maps, explode everything. And for bosses, we're still gonna have a different setup, or we're probably gonna get into today's stream. So I still need to craft my helm, my weapons, my gloves, like everything here needs to be crafted, needs to be done. We still haven't figured out what is the best way to use our skill tree. We need some more jewels to get more popping off. I also need levels. But this is just, I wanted to give you guys an idea on how builds can work in certain ways, and how I'm going to, or at least we are going to, progress throughout the build. So this is the purpose of this video. And now, today on stream, we're gonna finish crafting all of these, and then we're gonna have a bazillion of high-tier maps, like all Elder Burial Chambers and Elder whatever maps, that I want to run through and hopefully get some very nice experience and some very nice drops. Okay, guys, I hope you had fun with this small little insight of the next mapping generation build, because I think this is going to be super fun to play once you get things rolling, and once we finally make the great version of it where really everything works together once his characters level up and so on. So guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.